بسم الله الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله. اللهم لا سهل إلا ما جعلته سهلا وأنت تجعل الحزن إذا شئت سهلا. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. So today I'm going to start the first lecture of most likely a two lectures series about the rights of women in Islam. Because this is going to take some good time, so that's why we will not be able to finish them all in one go. So we'll start, inshallah, that in Islam, the origin of the orders of Allah's prohibitions and obligations, they are directed to men and women in equal. So when Allah Azza wa Jal says, do, it's not for the men, it's not for the women, it's for both of them in equal. And the orders of Allah Azza wa Jal are classified in Islam into four types, four levels. We have the first level, which is the level of orders that are directed to the individual, where men and women are equal, like pray, wudu, fast, hajj. All of these are individual orders. They are directed to the individual. Men and women are equal. So in this, no one can say this order is only for men, this order is only for women. It's being equal. The second type of orders are directed to the family. Can you please close the door? So the second type of orders are directed to the family, which is composed of a husband and a wife. And each of them, they have their own responsibilities based on what Allah Azza wa Jal has given to them. So what is going to be order for men might not be order for women in regards to the family matters. So for example, in the family matters, men are responsible about spending for the family. Women are not. So the order in that is only for the women, the men. Whereas other responsibilities are for the women, not for the men. So like for example, taking care of the kids and looking after their needs are mostly, especially at the early age, are mostly for women. So the orders came for women to look after their kids, for men to spend on the women and their kids. So these in the families, there are different responsibilities. And we will going to speak about, even in the family, what is the role of and responsibility of the husband within the family. And what is the responsibility of the wife within the family. Each one has his own responsibility. The third type of orders of Allah are directed to the community. For example, enjoining the good and forbidding the evil. And men and women in this are equal. So men as women, they have to create the change in the evil that is happening in the community. And the fourth types of orders are directed to the authority. Like for example, the judges, the rulers of the country. These are rules that depend on who the rules are directed. So if the woman does not have the authority at any place, then that does not go to her. If the man don't have the authority, then that rule does not go to him. So it will go directly to the person in authority. So this, whether it's a man or a woman, it will depend on who is in the place, and that's how it is. So looking at these four orders in Islam, when we speak about individual orders, equal. When we speak about community orders, equal. When we speak about family, Allah Azza wa Jal made some responsibilities here and some here, so the orders might have some changes. When we speak about authority, this is going to be directed to the person in the chair. So this is how we define. We don't say in general everyone is equal. We can claim that, but some areas where, for example, it's directed to the family, we differentiate as Allah Azza wa Jal differentiated between the orders of the head of the family and the wife of the family. Allah Azza wa Jal said, their Lord responded to them, I never fail to reward any worker among you for any work you do, be you male or female, you are equal to one another. So this is a direct verse from the Quran that says Allah Azza wa Jal will reward everyone in equal. So it doesn't mean that if a man made a good deed and a woman made a good deed, their reward is not equal. Their reward is exactly equal for the same good deed. Allah Azza wa Jal said, as for those who lead a righteous life, male or female, while believing, they enter paradise without the slightest injustice. So, any righteous deed, male or female, it's equal. Allah Azza wa Jal does not differentiate. Allah said, anyone who works righteousness, male or female, while believing, we will surely grant them a happy life in this world, and we will surely pay them their full recompense on the day of judgment for their righteous work. So Allah Azza wa Jal's side does not differentiate between men and women. It's all equal in the Quran. Allah Azza wa Jal said, the submitting men, the submitting women, the believing men, the believing women, the obedient men, the obedient women, the truthful men, the truthful women, the steadfast men, the steadfast women, the reverent men, the reverent women, the charitable men, the charitable women, the fasting men, the fasting women, the chastity men, the chastity women, and the men who commemorate God frequently, and the commemorating women, God has prepared for them forgiveness and a great recompense. Look how Allah Azza wa Jal gave each one of them, male and female, their right. He did not speak directly only to the men, and the women are going to be by the order. No, he spoke to the men and at the same time to the women for addressing both of them in the right way. So they are all equal. Women are partners of men in the individual responsibilities. As we said, they are the same, meaning that there is a statement that النساء شقائق الرجال, women are partners or like friends or like brothers of men. Correct? When it comes to individual, when it comes to community responsibilities, they are partners 100%. There is no difference in the order's language in the Quran between males and females except what there is a clear indication of. So in the Quran, when the order comes, it's directed to both men and women, unless there is a clear direction that this is for males and this is for females. But when she gave birth, she said, my Lord have given birth to a girl. God knew best what she had given birth to. The male is not like the female. I name her Mary, and I command her and her offspring to your protection from the rejected shaitan. This is the verse of the Quran where it said that male is not like the female. And this is in the Quran in Surah Ali Imran, verse 36. So which part of the orders males are different than the females? We spoke about, for example, the family matters. We know that when it comes to the physical creation of the male and the female, they are different. Men can actually go for tough work. They can go, for example, for mining work. They can go for lots of really physical and requires lots of effort and strength. But women's body don't accommodate that. Even though if they go for that, we will find them that they don't actually sustain their body's strength for a long time. And this is one of the reasons why Allah Azza wa Jal said male is not like the female, because when the mother of Mary was assigning her baby, she was assigning the baby to actually work in the temple in order to serve the temple, clean the temple, serve the people who are coming, which requires lots of physical work. That's why in that aspect, the mother of Mary said male is not like the female, because of the duty that was required for the job of the baby that the mother of Mary wanted. That's why Allah Azza wa Jal confirmed that yes, in that particular matter, males are not like the females. And there is a difference between them. They are not the same in most of the things like the shape, but they are equal in the individual order. So when you look at the shape, they are not the same. When you look at the physical strength, they are not the same. We are speaking about general. We might find some exemptions or special cases. We might. But in general, when we look at the difference between males and females, there is a big difference between them. When we look at the orders in Islam, for example, we speak about the blood money. So, if someone was killed by mistake, in Islam, if it is a male that was killed by mistake, the blood money is double the amount that if it was a female that was killed by mistake. Why did Islam make it like this? The reason why, because actually the effect of losing a man in the family is way higher than the effect of losing a woman in the family. Why is that? Because in Islam, Allah Azza wa Jal divided the responsibilities. Like what we said, a woman is not responsible about spending on anyone. Her money is absolutely fully her money. Meaning that she doesn't need to give the husband money, or the kids money, or the father and the mother money, or the brothers or the sister money. It's her money. In Islam, it's solely her money. Nobody can ask her for her money. Whereas the man has to spend on her, has to provide for her, has to provide for the kids, has to provide for the parents, has to provide for anyone. So because the man has all of this financial responsibility and support required from him, then the consequences of losing a man from the family is not going to be like the consequences of losing a woman from the family. Like, for example, if we are speaking about a man who passed away in a family, then his kids are going to have no source of income, because the man is the only source of income for them. Even their mother should not spend on them, according to Islam. So, that's why Allah Azza wa Jal, when He put the system, He put it in a way that males and females' responsibilities differ, so the other rulings in Islam, they are going to be different. For the inheritance as well, men take double the women. For example, if the brother and the sister, the brother has 2 shares, the sister has 1 share. Why? Again, the brother has the responsibility to spend on all of these who are up him, down him, his wife, his kids, his father and mother. It's all his responsibility. So the financial responsibility is full. Whereas when we speak about the women, they have no financial responsibility at all. They are not required to spend $1 on anyone. So in Islam, they don't have any financial obligation. So, due to their bigger responsibilities towards the other family members, women are not obligated to spend on anyone compared to men. Women are not required for any contribution for blood money. For example, even if she killed by mistake in Islam, she is not required to pay the blood money. But the one who is responsible about her is required for paying the blood money. So if she is married, and for example, she had a car crash, and by mistake someone died for that, without intention, She needs to pay the blood money for the person who died. She is not required in Islam to pay any money. Her husband needs to pay. Her family needs to pay. Her tribe needs to pay. So this is how Allah Azza wa Jal distributed the responsibilities, and that's how we understand why He gave more shares to the males compared to the females in this matter. Allah created materials and morals. Best of the materials are gold and silk, and they are prohibited for men. Men in Islam can't wear gold, can't wear silk. Whereas the best of the morals and are the imam position and taking responsibility of the family, which is the qawama. And it is for men, and that's the justice of Allah Azza wa Jalla. So we have two things. We have the materials and we have the responsibilities. Allah created both. So when it comes to the materials, the best in the materials is the gold and the silk. They are haram for men. They are for women. When it is for responsibilities, the highest responsibilities are the imam, meaning that the leader of a country, and the qawama within the family, the leadership of the family. So these are given to the men and these are given to the women. So Allah Azza wa Jal distributed these things in life equally between men and women. The West differentiated between men and women in materials. So we have perfume for the men, perfume for the women. We have a watch. No way for a watch to be, it's either for the men or either for the women. We have lots of things, either for the men and either for the women. So actually, the Western civilization recognized the difference between the men and the women. So they are different. And that's why they made for them different things to, even sometimes the cars. So women, they have special cars with pink color, with yellow color, with whatever color, whereas men, they have different color. So it's the system that recognizes that difference between the men and the women. Why shouldn't we, as Muslims, understand that they are different in many aspects, and everyone has his rights? The order comes in the Quran for the whole believers. O you who believe. When the order comes in the Quran for O you who believe, it is equal between men and women. So both need to adhere to what Allah Azza wa Jal ordered them. The physical creation of men and women is different. And that reflects some differences in the responsibilities outside the individual orders. As we said, in the individual's orders, all the individual's orders are equal because they don't target the physical differences and all of the other things. Whereas when it comes to other responsibilities like the family responsibilities, the male have different responsibilities than the females. The practice should be that orders for being modest and active for Islam should be equal for both men and women. Some people, they start saying, well, women are not supposed to go and do da'wah and convey the message of Islam. They should stay at home. No, the order came for both, to go and contribute to the Islamic values. So in enjoining the good and forbidding the evil within the community, the orders came to both. So they are both equal. They both need to contribute, and it's not one of them. So the orders came equal for that. Most of those who speak about the women matters nowadays are men, during the lack of knowledgeable women. Thus, women should put effort to have education, to reach a stage where they give fatwas in women and men matters, like what the mothers of the believers used to have. So at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, and even at the time of the companions and those who followed them, we used to have women who used to have their own lessons. And they used to give the lessons, and the men used to come and sit down to listen to their lessons. And men used to ask questions in fatwa to the women, who used to have knowledge in order to convey the knowledge of Islam. Islam did not differentiate. But the problem that is happening nowadays are women are not taking that step. They are not putting the effort to educate themselves to reach a stage where they have the knowledge enough for fatwa. At that time, men can go and refer to them in fatwas. And women can go to them for fatwas related to women. But that is being practiced even from the time of the Prophet ﷺ and onward, that women, some women who had the knowledge used to sit down for fatwa and men used to ask them. Like what we have a lesson like this, at the time of the companions and afterwards, there used to be women having a lesson like this. And in these lessons, men and women will be sitting, listening to the lessons, asking questions, and these women used to give the answers. So meaning that it's not actually just for the men to be having knowledge, it's supposed to be both men and women to have the knowledge and to have that position. Question: is the woman created with less capabilities than men? And are men better than women? And this is always the question. When we look at the creation of men, it's different than the women. Does that mean that the men are better than the women? Does that mean that the capability of the men is more than the capability of the women? Well, everyone is different and has different responsibilities. Sometimes women are better than men and better than their husbands. And sometimes the women are more knowledgeable and more wise than their husbands. And that's a reality. That's not the case. And sometimes they are more knowledgeable than men. Sometimes they are equal. And mostly they are less knowledge, as we said. So when we look at the scholars in Islam, we hardly have few from the women as knowledgeable, not because the men are better than them, but because the men put the effort to have that knowledge, and not many women put the effort. Meaning that we are not speaking that men are better than women. Sometimes the women who put the effort and got the knowledge, they are way better than the men. So it's not a matter that we are speaking about who is better than who. We are speaking about who put the effort to reach that level of knowledge, and Allah Azza wa Jal gave both male and female the ability to flourish in that and advance and have that knowledge. So they are equal, and sometimes males are better and sometimes females are better. So it doesn't say that someone is better than the other. Narrated Abu Musa al-Ash'ari, Allah's Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, many amongst men attained perfection, but amongst women none attained the perfection except Mary, the daughter of Imran, and Asya, the wife of Pharaoh. And the superiority of Aisha to other women is like the superiority of tharid, an Arabic dish, to other meals. And this has been narrated in Sahih al-Bukhari. Now, what is this perfection that the Prophet ﷺ said? He said, many attained perfection from men, but only from women, Mary and Asya. This is the wisdom of Allah Azza wa Jal. And Allah chose the prophets as men. Majority of scholars said that this hadith is related to the prophethood, because those who are perfect are prophets. And some scholars said, based on that, Mary and Asya were prophets. And they were the only prophets that were from the female side. And they claim that the perfection has been attained by Allah Azza wa Jal to only the prophets. That's why they claim, based on this hadith, that Mary and Asya are prophets. But others said there is a difference in opinion, and they said that no, it's that these women actually reached the highest stage of perfection and being away from the sins, and the prophets are only males, and they have another claim about that. Yes. What? Farid. Tharid is the best dish that was cooked in the Middle East. So the Prophet ﷺ was saying about Aisha compared to the other women, she is like the best dish compared to all the other food.
You know what the dish is, right?
Yeah, I know. But at that time, Tharid is like...
Can we get some yani?
Yeah, but at this time, when you compare that, I will say to you, Tharid is the bread and milk.
Is that it?
That's it. And that used to be considered the top dish that you can cook in at that time.
I thought it was something like Maluba.
No, nothing like that. Nothing like that.
Can you tell I haven't had that?
Allah Azza wa Jal chose the prophets as men. So as I said, some say that these are the only two that are prophets within the whole sequence of prophets. Some disagreed because Allah Azza wa Jal knew they will face lots of hardships and people will fight them and people will assassinate them, as we know. And the perfection is related to the speech of Allah to them, which is the prophethood, and that's why scholars say they are prophets. So meaning that there are two different opinions, whether they are prophets or not prophets, and the perfection that was meant in the hadith is the perfection of the prophethood or the normal perfection of anyone. But in general, the agreement that Allah Azza wa Jal has spoken to them, chose to spoken to them, and that's why they have that perfection, and that's why they are prophets. And so the matter is not solved, but at the end of the day, there are perfect women and there are perfect men. One of a beautiful comment that I heard from one is that Allah Azza wa Jal said, many amongst men attained perfection, but amongst women none attained the perfection except... Attained is what? Past tense. Correct? He did not say many attained and will attain except two. Do you understand what I'm saying? So the Prophet ﷺ mentioned the time before that only these attain the perfection. That doesn't mean that afterwards will not come someone from the women section that will attain perfection. So the Prophet ﷺ only spoke about the past, did not speak about the future. And for the men as well, he spoke about the past, he did not speak about the future. So as if the Prophet ﷺ left the door open for the perfection for both men and women. Again, it's a matter of difference of opinion whether that perfection is related to the speech of Allah Azza wa Jal and the prophethood or not. If it is related to the speech of Allah Azza wa Jal, that confirms that these two women were prophets. If it's not, then we can speak about future as well, perfect men and women aside. Allah Azza wa Jal said in the Quran in Surah An-Nisa, men are in charge of the matters of women by what Allah Azza wa Jal has given one over the other. Who's one over the other? Allah Azza wa Jal has given male over the female, some different things. Female over the male, some different things. Allah Azza wa Jal is saying one over the other. He's not saying by giving the men over the women. He's saying by giving the male over the female and the female over the male. So everyone has something that was given by Allah over the other. And what they spend for maintenance or sustenance from their wealth. Who are they spending from their wealth? Men. So men are the only ones who are required to spend from their wealth for the family and for the wife and for everyone. But the women are not. And then men were given some differences than women, and women were given some differences than men. And based on the whole system, Allah Azza wa Jal has given the leadership for the males in the family. What does that leadership mean? We are going to speak about. Does that mean that he can abuse? He can always say, no, it needs to be my opinion. It needs to be this and that. We are going to speak about all of that in more details. But in general, let's look at it from a life matter. We accept that a company will never ever have more than one CEO. Correct? Can we accept a company with 2 CEOs? No. So the family, why should it have 2 CEOs? It needs to have 1 CEO. And that's the reality. The family is more important than the company. And if we are accepting for the company to have 1 leader, why don't we accept for the family to have 1 leader? At the end of the day, so long as he does not abuse, so long as he is having the shura, he is respecting the opinion of the partner, then the system is going to be implemented and it's not going to be abused. So this is the responsibility of men over the family, and women are included in his responsibility. Meaning that Allah Azza wa Jal is going to question the man over his wife. He will not question the wife over her husband. He will say to the man, why didn't you correct your wife if she made a mistake? He will not say to the woman, why didn't you correct your husband? Because she is not responsible about the man. So it's all about the differences in the responsibility between the man and the woman. No company or country can be functioning correctly without a president. And similar, no family can be organized without a leader. And that's how Allah Azza wa Jal put the system for the family. Allah made men in charge of the family matters for 2 reasons. Number 1, he was appointed by Allah. So Allah Azza wa Jal made him. And number 2, to spend from his money. So that's why Allah Azza wa Jal put him in charge of the family and responsible. And when we say responsible, meaning that he will be questioned about every matter within the family. Women need to obey their husband, but that doesn't mean men are better than them. Like, for example, sometimes in a company, you will find the one underneath the CEO is way more knowledgeable, way more wise, way more actually experienced than the CEO and the president of the company. But who obeys who? Is it the knowledgeable obeys the CEO or the CEO obeys the knowledgeable? The knowledgeable obeys the CEO. Why? Because he's in charge. Does that mean that the CEO is better than the knowledgeable? No. And this is the system. So even though we are speaking about men are in charge of women, that doesn't mean that men are better than the women. Sometimes women are better than the men, as we said. But Allah Azza wa Jal gave the responsibility and leadership for the men, not because they are better than them, but because they need to have 1 leader. And Allah Azza wa Jal chose that leader to be the man. And so, it doesn't mean that the men are better than women. Sometimes normal people are better and more beneficial for humanity than country leaders. It's responsibility given to him, not a level that he is at a better situation than the other. So when the man is responsible about the family, not because he is better. As we said, sometimes a woman is better, but it's the distribution of the positions. Allah appointed him to be the leader. So that's an appointment from Allah Azza wa Jal, and ordered him to spend from his money. These are 2 things that were given to the man, not because he is better than the woman. Divorced women remain in waiting for 3 periods, and it is not lawful for them to conceal what Allah Azza wa Jal has created in their wombs if they believe in Allah and the last day. And their husbands have more right to take them back in this period if they want reconciliation, and due to the wives is similar to what is expected of them according to what is reasonable, but the men have a degree over them, and Allah is exalted in might and wise. So, I'm quoting this verse from the Quran to look at this, what Allah Azza wa Jal said, but the men have a degree over women. What is that degree over women, the degree that Allah Azza wa Jal has given to them by appointing them as responsible about the family matter. That's why Allah Azza wa Jal said that the men have a degree over them in responsibility and they need to spend. Responsibility. Part of it is closing the eye on seeing some mistakes towards himself and forgiving in their rights if they were oppressed. When we look at the leaders, what are the characteristics of the leaders? Usually the leaders are those who are more patient on the others. Usually the leaders are those who sometimes get oppressed, get accused, and get actually sometimes cursed, and people will be misbehaving with them. What is the responsibility of the leader that Allah Azza wa Jal has given to them? Not to use their power to take revenge, but Allah Azza wa Jal ordered them to be patient and to have that patience. So, even though Allah Azza wa Jal gave him responsibility of leadership of the family, He wants from him to be patient on the other members of the family. Even if they transgressed on him, he needs to be patient, because he is given that responsibility. And that's the meaning of the responsibility. So the responsibility, he was appointed, he needs to spend, and needs to look after them. And if he was treated not in a good way, he needs to be wise, and he needs to be actually soft and have patience on them. And that's part of the degree that Allah Azza wa Jal asked men to have over the women in regards to the responsibility. O mankind, have consciousness of your Lord, who has created you from a single soul. From it, the single soul, He created your spouse. And through them, He populated the land with many men and women. So, what does this say? Allah Azza wa Jal created women from the men, from the soul of the women, from the soul of the men. So what does that mean? Does that mean that the men are better than the women because they were created from Him? And Allah Azza wa Jal created Adam, then created Eve from Adam. Does that mean that Eve is less level than Adam? Of course not. What is the proof of that? Who is the best of the creation of Allah Azza wa Jal? Is Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam is being created from Adam. Does that mean that Adam is better than Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam? The answer is no. So, one was created from the other does not mean that one is better than the other. It means that he was created from the others. And everyone has his own level and might be better than the other. So that doesn't mean that women are less than men, as the Prophet ﷺ was created from Adam, and that doesn't mean Adam is better than Muhammad, peace be upon him. The Messenger of Allah ﷺ said, I have not seen any lacking in reason and religious commitment, but at the same time, more able to rob the wisdom of the wise, except one of you women. They said, how are we lacking on religious commitment and reason, O Messenger of Allah? He said, is it not the testimony of a woman like half the testimony of a man? They said, yes. He said, that is how she is lacking in reason. And when she menstruates, does she not refrain from praying and fasting? They said, yes. He said, that is how she is lacking in religious commitments. So, this hadith is always being brought up to say that women are less than men in Islam. So what's going on with this hadith? Usually this hadith is being narrated without this portion. More able to rob the wisdom of the wise like you. So, the Prophet ﷺ mentioned that those type, we have two things here. which is lack of reasoning and lack of religious commitments. The Prophet ﷺ here explained the difference between the two, which is the lack of reasoning and the lack of religious commitments. What did he say? That the witness of a woman, of two women, like the witness of one man in Islam. And why is that? Due to the physical creation of the women, which is different than the physical creation of the men, women go into some period of times where they have some changes in their body, like during the menses time and so on. So and add to that, for example, if you look at the creation of women and how they give birth to the babies, and the babies are actually taking nutrients from the women, and so they have actually some things to give to their babies from their own bodies. All of these made, Allah Azza wa Jal made women in a physical appearance and a physical, capabilities different than the physical capabilities of men. That's why Allah Azza wa Jal mentioned in the Quran the two women as witnesses, because if one forgot, the other will remind her. So that's one. So Allah Azza wa Jal mentioned in the Quran that you should have two witnesses. Two men, so if one forgot, the other will remind him. But if it is a man and a woman, there might not be a relationship directed. That's why a man and two women. So if one of the women forgets, the other will correct him. And so we will have two opinions that are supporting each other from the women's side. So the man can actually be looking at an opponent that has a strong, a strong opinion and remembrance. So that's number one. And for the lack of religious commitment, as the Prophet ﷺ mentioned, that the woman does not pray during these 7 days or 6 days of the menses, and she is not required to repeat these prayers. So that's the shortage of the religious commitments compared to the man. So man has to pray every month. If it is 30 days, he has to pray how many prayers? 30 times 5, 150 prayers. He has to pray. Women, they are short in 7 days, 6 days, 8 days. So that is the difference in the lack of religious commitments. And that's part of their creation. So these are the two things that the Prophet ﷺ said. So are they actually, in reality, lack reasoning and lack religious commitment? Yes, but those who the Prophet ﷺ mentioned that able to rob the wisdom of the wise person. So those who are evil women, who actually rob the wisdom of the wise men, these are the ones who lack religious commitments because their fear of Allah Azza wa Jal is low. To the extent that they were able actually to affect the brains of the men towards doing the wrong things. So these are the women that the Prophet ﷺ mentioned them, that in reality they lack religious commitments and they lack that reasoning. So because they are affecting the men and controlling them to do wrong things, these lack reasoning in reality and lack religious commitments. They are not pious and they are not actually wise, and that's what the understanding of the hadith is. So we have two portions. A portion that is not in their hand, and which is the reality that they don't pray at certain time, they don't fast at certain time, and that's not a lower level for them. The reality is that they forget, and that's why the testimony, it needs to be for two women to remind each other. That's the lack of reasoning. Nothing is saying that they are less than the men. Sometimes, to be honest, women, they can remember better than the men. And men need actually someone to remind them. So it's not, but because the general reality of the physical creation of the human beings is like this, Allah put the rules. But the rules are for the general practice and the general creation, not for specific conditions. And then the other part that we understand, the real lack of reasoning and the real lack of religious commitments from those women, not all women, but those women who actually drive the men to lose their wisdom and go do the wrongdoings. And that's how the Prophet ﷺ spoke about this hadith. In general, women use emotions than reasoning. But some men are as well using emotions. But in general, that's the driving force of the women, that they use the emotions. And in general, men use the reasoning. That's the general. And that's, you can taste it in many occasions where, for example, if someone comes and asks for some donation for men and women, women might give easily, they will be affected by the case. Men will go, just wait, let me check. They will go and ask. Why? Because it's that reality of the two different creations of Allah Azza wa Jal. Driven by emotions, driven by just try to think. That doesn't mean someone is better than the other. Sometimes we need the emotions more than the brain. Sometimes we need the reasoning more than the emotions. And so, everyone is special. Everyone is equal with what Allah has given to them, specially. That doesn't mean someone is better than the other. They are all equal and Allah treated them with justice. But it needs to be distributed, the responsibilities. That's why Allah gave the responsibility to the men, not the women. It's the decision of Allah Azza wa Jal to give that. If the woman lacks religion, she will ask him what he can't afford and will encourage him to do the wrong, and that's the lack of religion. In summary, two women lack reasoning, the one that orders her husband with wrong, and the nature of women who follow emotions. Two women lack religion, the woman who orders her husband to do wrong, and the nature of women who don't pray during menses. So we need to understand these two differences between when we spoke about the hadith. The Prophet ﷺ said, treat women kindly. The woman has been created from a rib. The rib is crooked, and the most crooked part of the rib is in the upper region. If you try to make it straight, you will break it, and if you leave it as it is, it will remain curved. So treat women kindly. So, what is the Prophet ﷺ speaking about? Speaking about a warning to men to treat them kindly. A warning that sometimes you might not like some behavior from the women. That doesn't mean you come and break the neck or try to correct harshly the behavior of the woman. Sometimes the men actually are the ones who are misbehaving. It's not always the women. But this is a warning because Allah Azza wa Jal gave the responsibility to the man. So when you have the responsibility, you have to treat them kindly because the position that was given. Like when you put a president to a company, you say to him, you are the president, but that doesn't mean that you abuse people. Everyone has a crooked way of thinking in his mind. But because he is in charge, Allah warned them. Allah warned the men and said to them, you have to treat women kindly. And then at the end he ended, so treat them kindly. So the whole concept is that we are going to see from each other's differences. Some weird thoughts. What is the solution for that? Treat kindly. It's a warning for men not to transgress in correcting their women as they have responsibility over them. Thus the Prophet ﷺ mentioned his limits. The limits of who? The man. What is the limit of man? He cannot transgress in correcting any behavior. He has a limit. And the Prophet ﷺ mentioned clearly that the women need to be treated kindly. And you cannot actually transgress and try to break the relationship because you want to correct some behavior. No, you have a limit because you are responsible. And as we said, the leader has the responsibility to have patience over those who transgress on him. What is meant by crooked is coquetry. What's coquetry, Ahmed?
Never heard it before.
Is it? As the norm of the relationship of woman towards her husband is coquetry. What's coquetry? I know what is the meaning of coquetry. Usually the women, they have that. Yes, it's like she likes to be soft, kind, inclined, and so on towards her husband. And that's the norm of the relationship. And that's the crooked type or the crooked part of the women. And if the man wants his wife to straighten up when she is dealing with him and to be always, look, speak to me science, speak to me math, 1 + 1 = 2, does not work. So the women have that emotions and that crookedness. If the woman is righteous, she will show matters that will increase the love to the husband, and that's the coquetry. Also, it means that whoever wants a woman that perfectly matches his mind, then he will not find it in his life. No woman matches the man and no man matches the woman. But because Allah gave the responsibility to the men, He said, you have to treat them kindly. And sometimes you don't correct. You just leave whatever is there in order for the life to continue and treat them kindly. So this is the right of the woman. When you look at these indications from the Prophet ﷺ and from Allah, you feel that actually Allah Azza wa Jal and the Prophet ﷺ ordered us more than He ordered the women. Gave us responsibility, but on the other side, there are consequences for that responsibility. That we cannot actually at some stages correct anything. You need to stay within the borders in order to keep that relationship. Women undergo lots of stressful times, pregnancy, menses, and so on, and this is part of her crookedness. Thus, the partner needs to be understanding. That's why the Prophet ﷺ said, you have to understand, you have to treat her kind, and if you come and correct your wife and the crookedness in your wife, then you are going to break her. So what to do? Just treat kindly. Abu Huraira radiyallahu anhu reported, Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, a believer must not hate his wife, believing woman. If he dislikes one of her characteristics, he will be pleased with the other. So that's an order not for the women. That's an order for whom? For the men. He does not dislike his wife. Sometimes you will dislike a characteristic of the woman. Does that mean you dislike that? No, the Prophet ﷺ said no. If you dislike something, you like something. So it's the reasoning that the man needs to have, where he needs to be balanced. Some good stuff from his wife, some are not. So he needs to close the eyes from the not and open the eyes on the good and live the life. This is how the Prophet ﷺ is ordering us. Crooked characteristics are with her husband due to jealousy or similar, not with other people. Sometimes the wife will be jealous and will start saying some things that are appearing for the husband. Why are you speaking? Why are you jealous? No, that needs to be understood, and the man needs to actually behave kindly with his wife when she is especially jealous and so on. Narrated Abu Sa'id al-Khudri, on Eid al-Fitr or Eid al-Adha, Allah's Messenger, this is another hadith that people quote about the women. Allah's Messenger ﷺ went out to the Musalla. After finishing the prayer, he delivered the sermon and ordered the people to give alms. He said, O people, give alms. Then he went towards the women and said, O women, give alms. For I have seen that the majority of the dwellers of hellfire were you women. The women asked, O Messenger of Allah, what is the reason for it? He replied, O women, you curse frequently and are ungrateful to your husbands. If a husband has always been kind to his wife and she sees once what she considers as a mistake from him, she would say that she has never seen any good from him. And this is an authentic hadith. So the Prophet ﷺ mentioned a couple of things here. Number one, he said, give alms to the women. I have seen you the majority of the dwellers of hellfire. And they said, why? And he mentioned two reasons. So that the women that are the majority of hellfires is these two women. Those who actually curse a lot and those who are ungrateful to their husbands. One mistake and they forget everything. These are the women that the Prophet ﷺ mentioned that they are the majority of the hell. Women usually, when dealing with her husband, she says what she don't believe. Sometimes women will ask for divorce, but she doesn't mean it. So the reality of the women, they usually sometimes when they are angry, they speak up things that are actually not real. They don't believe in, but because they are upset. So the Prophet ﷺ said to them, give charity, give donations. And so the reality is that the majority of the people, the dwellers of hell are women, and the majority of the dwellers of heaven are women. So women are actually the majority in both. So it's not a matter that actually women majority are going to hell, and then men majority are going to heaven. No, it's not the case. In another hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said, you are the majority of the dwellers of the heaven. So, meaning that they are the majority in both. But who are those who are in hell? Are those who the Prophet ﷺ mentioned, that they curse a lot, and those who are ungrateful to their husbands. But even with that reality, the Prophet ﷺ said to them, give alms. Even if the woman did that, he said to her, give alms in order to cover that, so she doesn't be from the dwellers of hell.
Was there any mention of what were the reasons why the majority of the women are
in Jannah?
Because this one was that gave the reason.
Who are the dwellers of Jannah? Hur Ain? Are they men or women? But they are not human. And the Hur from the Teen, the clay Hur, which are the women from the human beings. So in general, well, the women with what Allah Azza wa Jal has given to them, different than the men, when they are behaving, Allah Azza wa Jal is just. He's not going to treat them like what He treats the men. Because He has more reasoning in some cases, in general, but in some cases they have more reasoning. And so His responsibility and His accountability is more than her accountability. So they are not going to be treated the same in the Day of Judgment. But in general, those women who curse frequently and who are ungrateful to their husbands are the ones who are going to be there. So if the women that we are speaking about are not fulfilling these, then they are the majority of the heaven. And that's what we know about the heaven. And Allah Azza wa Jal said to Adam, in the Day of Judgment, He will say to him that, get out from the people, from the human beings, the share of hell. So he asked, how much should I get out? And he said to him, from every 1,000, 999 in hell and 1 going to heaven. And that's the percentage of those who are going to heaven, which is 1 out of 1,000. So why is the reason? Allah Azza wa Jal mentioned the Prophet ﷺ mentioned in the hadith that even within heaven, the women who are from this life are going to be in heaven are better than the women who are from the actual heaven, that are the Hur al-Ain. So all of these are giving you an understanding that you cannot say that when the Prophet ﷺ said you are the majority of hell, that the majority of hell are women and most of the women are going to hell and less men are going to go to hell. That's not the case, because the majority as well is there in heaven. So it's something that we need to look at as well. If we look at the percentage of women versus men in the human beings, women are more than men, correct? Women are 54 and men are 46, and that's the percentage. So, and during the history, women are more than the men. So if you look at this, it will become like, yes, the majority are going to be here and the majority are going to be here. Okay? So this is what we understand about this. Majority of Jannah people are women and majority of hell people are women. Majority of people of hell are women that have the mentioned characteristics. Doesn't the fact that the Prophet ﷺ are only men indicate they are better than women? No, it's only to be able to handle hardships he will face. As we said, that the Prophet ﷺ, he indicated that men are able to handle hardships, that's why they are in charge of women. Some rights of the women. Does the woman has the right to say, I need to develop myself, I need to work on myself, I need to have time for myself, I need to educate myself? Of course, yes. It is the right in Islam for everyone to develop himself for himself. So I want to develop myself because I want to have a better job, I have a better education. Is that for both men and women? Yes. Does the woman has the right to do that? Yes. Even if she is under her husband? Yes. She has the right to have her own personal development for her own self. That's the right of her. Some cultures make it shame to mention the name of his daughter or his wife or his mother, and that's not from Islam. As the Prophet ﷺ used to mention the name of Fatima, used to mention the name of his wife Safiya, he used to mention their names. So it's actually a cultural thing that sometimes people feel ashamed to mention the name of their females, the name of their wives, their mothers, their sisters, their daughters. No. That's not from Islam. Islam taught us that even the Prophet ﷺ used to mention the name of Fatima on the minbar in front of all the companions. He used to walk actually with Safiya side by side. It's not from Islam that people sometimes get shame or feel that they are shy to walk next to their wives. No, the Prophet ﷺ used to walk next to his wife in front of everyone, and he used to stop and say, this is Safiya of my companions. The woman has the right to defend and ask for her rights, and not through anyone. Unless she feels she is weak, then she can assign someone to defend her rights. At the time of the Prophet ﷺ, women used to stand and say to the Prophet ﷺ, we need this from you, in front of everybody, in front of males and females. But all of that was within the borders of modesty. So they used to say, O Messenger of Allah, we need a time for us women, especially where you give us a lesson alone. And the Prophet ﷺ, and she stood in front of everyone. So she was asking for the right of women, for her right and the right of women. So the Prophet ﷺ assigned for them Thursday to give them a lesson separately, privately, so they can ask whatever question they want. So that means actually women can stand and ask for their rights in front of men, in front of women, so long as they are speaking in a modest way and they are not inclining their talks, they are not laughing, joking, doing all of this.
The common thing that a husband and wife have problems. The wife wants to speak to a sheikh, and the husband refuses, and it feels very embarrassing to make the family problems known to the sheikh, and it happens a lot that the husbands refuse to speak to anyone and even threaten if you speak to anyone on divorce news. What's the ruling in this case if she feels she's not getting her haq and she wants someone to mediate the situation? Is the husband obligated to say yes, or he can say no, or what's the deal?
Okay, this is a question. We are speaking about the rights of both. Allah Azza wa Jal mentioned the steps if there is a dispute that is happening between the husband and the wife. What are the steps to be taken? And to ask for a mediator outside was the fourth step. So the husband and the wife should actually try to fix their problems inside the house, and even without the children knowing that there's any problem. But if things were deteriorating and one of them is feeling that he's not taking his right, it's his right actually, or her right, to ask for a mediator. And that should be from both sides, that the mediators can sit down and speak. But it is a requirement for the person who are going to be, the two who are going to be mediators, that they have some characteristics. They need to be wise. They need to be caring about the family. They want to bring them back. And they need to be keeping the secret. Because the moment the information leaks out to the community, that family cannot be actually brought back together in an easy way. So that's why it is tricky, and the husband should actually allow that to happen, and should, if she is requesting and she is feeling that she is not taking her right, it's her right to ask for someone else to come from outside, but that person needs to be two. One from the side of the woman and one from the side of the man. Unless the man wants to represent himself. But it's supposed to be that one from each side. And the man and the woman speak to these people, and these people sit with each other. And they discuss. And these people need to be those who keep the secret, and these people need to be actually worried about the case of the family. They don't want to break the family. And that's why Allah Azza wa Jal put that step. So it is her right to ask for that. Women used to stand in front of the Prophet ﷺ and ask for their rights. Thus, women can stand and express their opinions in front of anyone, so long as we are expressing it in a modest and disciplined way. Men and women's rights are similar, except in the matters that men have responsibilities than women, such as to spend on the family and on her, to pay the blood money, to spend on family members. Allah gave ease for the women in finances. Someone needs to provide for her, and she doesn't need to provide for anyone. Someone needs to spend on her accommodation and clothes, and she doesn't need to spend except of her parents if they are poor. She doesn't to pay dowry, and the man needs to pay dowry, and so on. So Allah Azza wa Jal has differentiated between each one's right, and the woman doesn't need to pay anything for any case. The Islamic system is built on shura in all matters. Thus, Islam did not provide clear indication that men are always need to be having their opinion straight away. No, Allah Azza wa Jal said in the Quran, وَأَمْرُهُمْ شُورَى بَيْنَهُم, and their matter is shura between them. That's general. Their matter of whom? The Muslims. Meaning that the matter of the families is a shura. The matter of anything within the family of outside or outside is a shura. So shura is equal for men and women. And for family matters, country matters, even for choosing the Khalifa, it is shura. Meaning that even at the time of the companions, when they wanted to choose the Khalifa, actually they used to take the shura of the women. They used to ask the women about their opinion on who is going to be the Khalifa. So meaning that men and women are equal in the shura. In Islam, they need to be consulted on each matter. And even the Prophet ﷺ, in some matters, he had the shura from his wife, Salama, when he had a matter and he was speaking to the men and no one from the men was reasoning. He came back to his wife in the tent and he said to her, I don't know what to do with this. And Salama gave him the opinion, and it was a wise opinion, and the Prophet ﷺ followed that opinion and solved the problem. Meaning that shura is for both. It's not only for men. It's not only to take the opinion of men, but to take the opinion of both. Women can join the shura committee of the country, as there is no evidence of preventing her from being a member, because the verse is general. وَأَمْرُهُمْ شُورَى بَيْنَهُمْ, and their matters shura between them. Allah Azza wa Jal said, وَشَاوِرْهُمْ فِي الْأَمْرِ, and get the shura from them for the matter. Get the shura from them. The word them refers to whom? Males? No, in Arabic language it doesn't say males. It says whom. Shawirhum. Get shura, consultation from them. Meaning that, get from the males, get from the females. So the males and the females can be in the shura. Can women leave their houses without the permission of the men? Now comes and we will finish with this. Can women actually in Islam leave their houses without the permission from the men? Number one, they are not in a prison. We need to understand. Number two, Allah Azza wa Jal said that, and if you have them with you, then have them with good conduct. From whom? From us men. With good conduct, with good manners. So does the good manner, mean that I actually force that don't leave the house except if I give you permission? If I don't give you permission, don't leave the house. Well, the matter is of difference of opinion. Like Ibn Taymiyyah and Imam Nawawi said, the wife should not leave the house without the permission of the husband. But is there any evidence about that? Has there been any evidence within the Prophet ﷺ or the companions that women used only to leave their houses when they asked permission? Actually, it's no. So why did Ibn Taymiyyah and Imam Nawawi, for example, and the majority of the scholars say that she has to have the permission? Because they want a system that is a bit of controlled. So, how can we understand this at the end? Can a woman leave the house without the permission of the husband? If she is going, for example, she wants to go shopping, to buy some stuff for the house, is this something that will get the husband angry? She's buying some stuff she wants to cook the lunch. Does she need to always take the permission for something like that? The answer is no. She's not in a prison. She doesn't need to. She can go out. If she is going for something that is not going to affect her responsibilities in the house. For example, the husband has some wealth inside the house. And he said to her, please don't leave the house because I need someone to guard my wealth until I come back. So he put that in her responsibility. Now if she leaves the house, that's wrong. Why? Because there is a responsibility. Her kids are hungry. And it's a sort of agreement between the husband and the wife. Can you provide the cooking and the requirements for the family? And I will go outside for my work. Yeah, they agreed on that. And then she left the family without food. Because she wants to go out with her friends. Well, that's not the right thing. But she did all of her responsibilities and she wanted to go to have a coffee with one of her friends. without telling the husband. But she knows if she asks him, he will not say anything, because that's normal. Then she doesn't need to ask. She can go out, and then she come back, and say, I went with my friend, but everything from her responsibility has been fulfilled. So the thing that we are speaking about, that there is no evidence to say every time the woman needs to go out of the house, she needs to take permission. There's no evidence for that in Islam. No command from the Prophet ﷺ, no practice from the Prophet ﷺ, no practice from the companions. But that doesn't mean that she leaves her responsibilities and leave. At that stage, yes, she cannot. If there are some responsibilities, and she knows that her husband will become angry from her if she leaves the house, then she cannot leave the house because of her responsibilities. She cannot leave everything. Does the woman need to have permission from her husband if she wants to leave her house? She needs when she wants to go to the masjid in the night. That's because of the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. If your wives ask you to go to the masjid in the night, give them permission. So meaning that if she wants, for that hadith only, meaning that if she wants to go in the night to the masjid, she needs to ask permission. Because it's a night. So the husband needs to give permission. And what did the Prophet ﷺ say? Give them permission. So because of that hadith, the scholars said, it's only for that conditions. Scholars agreed that women need to take permission to go out if she knew that will make him angry because he has a need or there are some responsibilities in the house and look after the kids and doing some stuff, but she left all of these responsibilities and went out, and that will cause him angry, then she needs to take permission from him. If she fulfilled her responsibilities and there's nothing to do and she wants to go out for a shopping, she wants to go out with her friend to have a coffee, and she will be back when he comes because he has a need as well. So she needs to be for his need. If she came back before he comes back, then there is no harm with that. So she doesn't need to take permission in everything. Allah said, either return them amicably, or release them amicably. So preventing the wife from visiting, for example, her parents, does not comply with that. So no husband can prevent the wife from connecting her ties, her kins, visiting her parents, and so on. And that does not comply with the verse of the Quran that you need to treat them amicably, not to treat them like they are in a prison. So we stop at this. Maybe I just say a man can't be angry from his wife for no reason if she went out from the house without his permission unless she didn't fulfill her duties. So if she's fulfilling her duties, she left the house for something without his permission, come back, no problems. It is not the right of the husband to prevent the wife from going out of the house as she is not imprisoned. But she cannot travel without his permission as he has some needs. So she needs to take permission. Unless there is a short travel, for example, for 2, 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours. So she will be away during his time when he is at work. From 9 to 5, she traveled, she came back, she has a mahram and so on. And she came back, so there is no actually problems with her duties. So she is fulfilling her duties, then she can actually travel without his permission.
Quick question on the mahram. I know with the Hajj groups, one particular imam, he said back in the time of Sayyidina Hassan, it was dangerous for women to travel alone and the trip was very long. These days the husband can take the wife all the way to the door of the plane and then she's on the plane with a group and she's in the company of her group. So does the mahram rule still apply? I know some mashaykh don't take women to Hajj without a mahram, but some do, saying that she's with the group. And
can we speak about that at the beginning of next time? Because this is the next point.
If you like.
Because it's about traveling with mahram, and is she allowed to travel with mahram or not, and so on. So we'll speak about this inshallah next time, because there are lots of things still are missing from the rights of women in Islam. Anyone has any question? Did anyone put questions online? No? Alright. Yes.
Regarding the husband forbidding his wife to visit her parents, is it okay if he puts like a limit or a schedule, for example, once a week or twice a week, especially if her family has sort of bad influence or something like that? So he doesn't forbid it completely, but
It should be with agreement between both. It should be that they both sit down and discuss and decide what they want to do. So the matter is shura between them. It's not a matter of you have to go this, you have to go that time. It's a discussion. The marriage life is not a one way or the highway. It's a discussion life. It's a shura life. Okay? Any question? Alright. So, we see you next week inshallah for the rest of the rights of women in Islam. جزاكم الله خير. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك.